Welcome. This is by request. I'm going to do a couple of quadratic formula review problems. One is going to be straightforward, which actually is factorable, and the second one not so much. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's do our quadratic formula. It is from Algebra 1, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the radical or b square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you probably sung this to Pop Goes the Weasel when you were in Algebra 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quadratic, an x squared expression, and we need to start off in standard form. To review quick, our standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c, and we set that equal to 0 because we want our y to be 0 because we're looking for the solutions. Where does it cross the x-axis? And so let's go ahead and get this puppy into standard form. So we got x squared minus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. And we're going to plug in our ABC. Our A is 1, leading coefficient. Now my writing tablet is a little old and messed up. I got to probably get a new one. B is equal to negative 8, so I hope you can follow along. C is 12. Plug them straight into my formula. Now in Algebra 1, I expected, and it was a gradable item, to plug in. No mental math, no nothing. They had to plug in perfectly. But for geometry, not so much. You can use mental math. You could jump steps if you wanted to. Just depends on how comfortable you are. I'm not particular about it. Like, for instance, b is negative 8. I plug it right in there. I'm just going to call that 8. 8 plus or minus b squared, which is 64. We square the whole thing, minus 4ac. I'll go ahead and write that out. 4, a is 1, and c is 12, right? Okay, all over 2a, which is 2. So what we got is 64 minus 48. So that's going to be 12 plus 14 is 16. So 8 plus or minus radical 16 all over 2. Radical 16 is, of course, 4. So you have 8 plus or minus 4 all over 2. Now you have two solutions here, and that very often happens in quadratics. Geometry, that's going to happen too. And sometimes you have to look for extraneous solutions. So what we have is 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So these are my x's right here. X is equal to. And if I were to factor this, you would see that as x minus 6, x minus 2 is equal to 0. And you know that x is 6 and x is positive 2. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next example. Now this one I'm going to have a leading coefficient of greater than 1. So I'll make something up here. I'm going to call it, I guess, go ahead and call it 2x squared. 2x squared, I'll do plus 4x minus 7. That gives me, pretty sure this is not factorable. It is not. I have a nice good prime number on the end there. And there's no way that's going to work out into a whole number answer. So let's go ahead and plug this in. A is 2. B is 4. And C is negative 7. So negative b, I'll write it again, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac. See how horrible this writing tablet is now? It used to be much better in its youth. Time to invest in a new one. Plug in for b, so that's going to be positive 4, negative 4 right up there, negative 4 plus or minus, trying to write, b squared is 16. Minus 4ac. Now I'm going to do some mental math here. So, well, I won't do too much for you. Okay, but I know that a negative times a negative, because there's a negative c, there's a negative 7, and there's a negative 4. So I know I'm going to be adding plus 4 times 2 times 7, okay, all over 2a, which is 4. So I went ahead and I didn't do the mental math there, but 8 times 7 is 56, of course. So negative 4 plus or minus 16 plus 56, this is just 56 right here. 56, 66, 72, that makes it a very sweet radical. We got lucky. Actually, it's easier when it's prime. You can't, or you just can't break it up by a perfect square. All right, so we know that 36 goes into this twice. We simplify our radicals in this class, and we simplify our fractions. I already see that we're going to have to simplify some fractions over here. So we got 36 times 2, so radical 36 is 6, so I have negative 4 plus or minus 6 radical 2 over 4. And just as a reminder, if you're an algebra student watching this, you probably want to go back to the algebra, some algebra videos where they do step by step by step. I've skipped a few here. And this is for my geometry students. Now, what I have is I'm going to simplify these fractions. 2 goes into this one, and this one. So 2 goes into all these. Like, for instance, if I cut this, that's 2, that's going to be 2, that's going to be 3, and that's going to be 2. So that's all I'll do. So negative 2 plus or minus 3 radical 2 over 2. And I could split this fraction up here. I could put negative 2 over 2 plus or minus 3 radical 2 over 2, which is nothing more than 1 plus or minus 3 radical 2 over 2, if I wanted to do that as well. But this is perfectly fine. I'm happy with this. That is my quadratic review. I will see y'all next time.